So you are doing some research here.
Yeah, so Cam the intern
Got his own podcast.
got his own podcast, but it looks good.
Looks good. Logos, good
Maybe
graphics.
it sounds good too.
Oh, Cam, hardworking kid.
Cam?
Yeah.
Every day that kid's stock goes up a little
Doesn't
bit.
it?
A little bit.
Ryan, her three on the way. It's good off the backboard and in. Murray, what a take by Tucker. Jones, another steal. Spin on Caldwell, and the layup's good.
I would like to see you hold a mirror up to yourself and interview yourself. As good as this was, it could only be better if it was all you.
Tuning in, I was a fan. I was like, man, let's do it.
Cam, thanks so much for having me on. I'm happy to be here.
Joined today for the first time, Cam Isimone. Gallagher's going to have to shoot it from beyond the arc. And it's good! Jacobs for three. He got it! My goodness, what a shooting performance by
For me,
Jacobs.
I think Cam's corner is great.
Tune in to Cam's Corner.
This kid's going to make it. He's going to make it here.
On a break.
All right, and we are back, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Cam's Corner. Today, joining me, one of the sports directors for ABC6, and currently was a professor at URI, where I go as well in the fall semester, the first time around. Sports media, teaching students sports media and broadcasting. It's Nick Coit. Nick, I appreciate you taking the time to join me today, man.
Cam, great to be with you, man. It's still weird to hear somebody call me a professor. It's just very strange. But hey, I'm getting used to it, and I really do enjoy it. It's awesome.
No, for sure. And hopefully, down the road, I'm fortunate enough to get you as a professor if you continue to teach. And, before we get into everything that you've done so far this year and throughout your career, I did want to ask you, just to start off, like where you're originally from and, where that like passion for sports, like how you first got involved with sports and everything like that at a young age.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Plymouth, Massachusetts, home where the Pilgrims landed, America's hometown, all of that. Yep. We got the Rock, we got the Mayflower, all of that. So yeah, I'm not too far away. And that's the great thing about working in Providence and working in Rhode Island is that, it's not too far from my family. My family can actually get me on TV. And that's a great thing. Because family's everything, and it's important to have close to you. In terms of getting into the industry, look, I grew up in Plymouth, and I grew up a Boston sports fan, so I'm a fan of the Big Four: Red Sox, Celtics, Bruins, Patriots. Developed a love for all of them, and so and I grew up playing baseball. Plymouth is a baseball town, and so that's where some of the sports passion came from. I found out at probably around middle school that I was a decent performer, and that was sort of where my talents was being in front of people. I got the lead in Guys and Dolls in the 6th grade as Nathan Detroit, and everything kind of went from there. So I did a lot of theater growing up, did a lot of stage, and it was something that those were two passions of mine. And at one point in high school, it sort of clicked for me that, okay, how can I combine the two? And the story I always tell, and I think I told to my class last semester, the movie Dodgeball came out in 2004-ish.
Classic. Yeah.
And this was around my junior year of high school. And since it was so popular, I had a few friends that were running an organization that does charity work, whatever, and they were raising money, and so they put together a dodgeball tournament. And they said they wanted the whole works. They wanted the teams, they wanted the characters, all that. And so my friends that were running it came to me and another friend of mine, Sam, and said, "Hey, we need the two guys from ESPN 8 The Ocho. Would you want to do commentary for this dodgeball tournament?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, that sounds like a blast." And I sort of took it as a, performance sort of thing. And they gave us 2 microphones and the whole gym could hear us. And we were just doing play-by-play or doing post-match interviews, whatever. And we had an absolute blast. And I kid you not, Kim, the next day I had 3 teachers come up to me at separate times during the day and say, you were actually really good at that. You should think about doing that as a career. And that's when the light bulb went off. And it was like passion for sports, passion for performance, put them together. And I got sports broadcasting. And that's how I landed into, going this direction.
Wow. And what year was that in high school, you said?
Junior year of high school. So I was, 16, 17.
Okay. So then, after that, like your senior year, what was the mindset like for you, going into like the college scene? And I know you went to Emerson College. Like, how did you decide on that? And two, your senior year, did you get involved in like anything else besides that? Like, I know you said the dodgeball tournament was kind of like the kickstart to that. So like, was there anything like that, like your senior year?
Yeah, they started doing TV news at Plymouth North High School where I went. It was during my senior year, admittedly, and they have a great program now. Admittedly, I didn't catch on to it or stick on to it because it was just starting out, and I landed the lead in Macbeth as Macbeth. So I, instead of trying to get involved in that, I used my fifth period study to memorize Shakespeare, which was a real challenge, and I really did need the time to do that. So I didn't get involved with it then, but it was at Emerson that I knew I wanted to do it, and so I took the time to apply to schools and apply to journalism schools, and URI was one of the schools that I looked at, but Emerson just kind of had it all for me. I could still play baseball. I could be involved in a great journalism program. They had a great track record. And so, yeah, it just came down to that. And that's where I decided to go. And it was a fantastic decision because it was a great school. It gave me a lot of knowledge. I had great professors. I had great, instruction, great direction. And yeah, it was everything in terms of building my career.
Yeah. And you were able to play baseball, like you said. I didn't know that. Was it tough to balance, maybe programs you got into as far as like the sports media aspect of it, trying to like build up a career and then like play baseball at the same time?
Yeah, it's always a balance if you're at any level. And I mean, I was a Division III. I might have been the worst Division III baseball player in America, but I loved playing it and I loved being on the team. And my best friends are all guys that I played baseball with, whether it was in high school or college. So always loved that team aspect. And it was a balance. But the great thing about Emerson was, I wasn't a Division I athlete. Division I, those guys deals with so, guys and girls deal with so much. And so the balance, I try to understand that when I'm teaching some of the guys that, and girls that I have in my class. And, with Division III, with Emerson, the understanding was like, look, I'm not going to the major leagues. So, we're playing and we're committed to it. And we want to play well and show out, but we also know that everybody's here for their majors, everybody's here for their careers, and want to further that down the line. And I had friends on the team that were marketing majors. They got into marketing. I had friends on the team. My buddy Jeff Kolb is sports anchor at Fox 4 in Dallas, and he was a pitcher on the team, committed to it. He was a good player, but he knew that at some point the career was going to be the focus, and that's sort of what it did for me too.
Right. Like, what were the types of programs like you were involved in, like at the same time as playing? Like, like I know for me, in my aspect, like a lot of things, like I'm fortunate enough to call games on ESPN Plus for URI. I'm fortunate enough to call games over the radio and, sideline report for football and any other sports. So like for you at the time, like what were some of those programs like at Emerson?
Great. I'll tell you, the ESPN Plus, and streaming is such a great thing for everybody at URI and for you guys. What a great opportunity. That's something it was just sort of coming around, the streaming, and that now, I mean, it's like any athletic event there's a stream for it. It's wild. It hadn't grown to that point quite yet. But we had a lot of great organizations on campus, whether it was Emerson Independent Video, EIV. We did a lot of, newscasts sort of things. I did news updates for EIV. I did news updates for WERS 88.9, the FM station, which still people in Boston will listen to outside of campus, which is great. With EIV, we did a show called Unsportsmanlike Conduct. That was basically a sports debate show. It was right before the hot take era started in sports media. And it was just us guys and girls going on and talking about sports, debating different topics, wide topics. And, EIV, put together a bunch of those different shows, but this was like it was a great time for that to happen because there was a lot of people, and this reminds me of what I'm seeing on campus with URI now. There was a lot of kids that wanted to get into sports media that had a lot of talent. And a lot of them went on to get into the industry. And and if it wasn't in the industry there, it was in something else that they're, flourishing in now. But we had a lot of kids that were involved in it. And I don't know if they're still doing unsportsmanlike conduct, but it was really, really fun. There's old clips online somewhere. And it's actually ironic because being involved in that show is actually how Ian Steele, my partner at ABC6, really got connected because Ian was a few years behind me and he ended up being a host of the show. And, we had connected before, but we connected again when I came back for an alumni show. This was around 2014, which is, I think, the year that Ian graduated. And, we connected then and stayed in touch. And years later, it led to him, becoming my my tag team partner.
Yeah, that's awesome. And was there any like internships that you were involved in at the time too, like mixing in, obviously probably closer to like your junior and senior years?
Yeah. I had two great internships that propelled me into the industry. One of them was I did play-by-play for a summer with the Cotuit Kettleers of the Cape Cod Baseball League. And it was awesome. 51 games. My buddy Nick, who's now the head baseball coach at Emerson, Nick and I did 51 games. They won the championship that summer, which was awesome. And I mean, the talent you see come through the Cape League is, it's immense. I think Colton Wong was the MVP that summer. We had Mike Yastrzemski on our team. We had Devin Marrero, who was a first-round pick of the Red Sox. Trying to think of some of the other guys that went through there. There was a bunch of them. I could go on and on thinking about some of the names and players and whatnot. But yeah, it was great and gave me a lot of great real world experience because we were just calling games every night. And it was cool. Like kind of gave us free reign. And then the other internship I did was spring of my senior year at Emerson. I interned with Boston 25 News in Dedham, Mass, and made a lot of great connections. And that got my foot in the door into the industry because basically what happened was I did the internship for 4 or 5 months. They liked my work. They liked what I did for them. And around the time of graduation, they needed producing help because their sports anchor had left and their lead sports producer, he and his wife were about to have their first kid. And so they needed the help. And so they came to me and they said, well, how would you like to be a freelance producer? We'll hire you on. And so I graduated from Emerson and got my diploma on a Monday. And on Tuesday, I walked into Boston 25 as a freelance producer and got my foot in the door. So those are huge. You get great internships, you'll learn a lot, but it can also open the door for you.
Yeah. What was your mindset like at that time? I mean, I want to definitely ask you that because I mean, for me, like now at, 20 years old, like kind of almost nearing my end of my college career, definitely have to look at, real world jobs and stuff like that. Still trying to get some more internship experience. But for you, like you said, like you graduated and then that next day, a week or so, whatever it was, like you're in the door and, you're in your first real job. So like for you, what was your mindset like, going into everything?
Yeah, it's you want to have a great work ethic and you want to be persistent. That's two things that I really pride myself on. And look, we working in sports media, it's my old sports director Ken Bell used to say it's like working in the toy department. Like we're lucky we get to do what we do. We're not digging ditches for a living. But if you want to succeed, you want to work hard at it. You want to work hard at making connections and building relationships, because it is about who you know. And if the more people you know, the more doors can open for you. And the harder you work, you're gonna build those sorts of relationships. And so, that's my best advice to people is just meet people, shake their hands, work hard at it, get your name out there, do things like this, doing a podcast, getting your name out, building your brand, that sort of thing. And then with social media and with podcasting and with all these online, things you can do, I think it's for you guys, it sort of streamlines the process. I wasn't doing a podcast in college because it was just kind of coming up. And there's just so many avenues. Twitter was just coming up. I mean, the first thing I remember breaking on Twitter that was like, wow, this is like a breaking news app. Like we're going to see this happen was when the Celtics traded Kendrick Perkins to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And that was years ago. But that's one of the first times I remember hearing people like cite Twitter as a breaking news app and up to the minute updates and whatnot, people building their brands and their names and whatnot. And now it's commonplace. And that's the great thing for, people trying to get in the industry, is that, you can get your foot in the door that way by people noticing you on social media and online too.
Right. And like from Boston 25 for yourself, like, you had a lot more experience after that as well. I know you worked in Maine. It's like one of the top news stations over there. And then, at WEI too, which I almost interned there. But again, I interned at Sports Hub this past summer. So, just talk about like the adjustment, what that's like, just moving, you haven't really have to move like super far, but, working in Maine for a little bit, coming back to New England, and just like that adjustment process and, that time period for yourself.
Yeah, I got lucky that I didn't have to leave New England. And that's luck. Because a lot of people have to go to different places in the middle of, America somewhere where there's not a lot of civilization, whatever. It's different living, different kinds of people, whatever. I got lucky going to Bangor, Maine, and oh man, I so enjoyed my experience up there. It's different. Bangor, Maine is different from Providence, Rhode Island, and different from Plymouth, Mass, and different from Boston. Like it's a different world up there. But I so enjoyed my time up there. I worked at WABI TV5, which was the top rated station in the market. A lot of industry, veterans there. I had a great mentor in Tim Throckmorton, who was the sports director there for 30 plus years. And he pushed me to be better. And the great thing about going to a small place is that you get your mistakes out. You go and you really learn things. They send you out with a camera to do a story and say, go figure it out. They send you out to a game, go figure it out. They throw you into the fire. You go on TV and maybe there's a technical error or something like that. Figure it out. This is what's going to happen. It's live TV. And so I learned all of those different things. And, the great thing about going to a small place, it can sound scary, particularly if you're going far away somewhere, but you're not the only one. And if you get into television, you go in the small market route, there's going to be other people that are doing the same thing. And I have such a great bond with some of my best friends in the industry are people that I started out with in Bangor, Maine. They were 23, 24 years old, just like me, and had their first job, and we all kind of bonded together. And now I've got, my friend Jackie is a, well-respected news anchor in Harrisburg, PA. My friends Caitlin and Taylor work at NBC Connecticut. They've had great long careers now. They're such pros. My buddy Terry Stackhouse works up in Portland, Maine now at WMTW, ABC affiliate up there. He's such a pro, wonderful guy. Worked with him nightside, like all these people. And that's the thing, you get in the industry, you get your foot in the door, and all of these connections that you have, they start out in Bangor, Maine. And now I can tell you, you could name a market and I probably know somebody there because I've worked with so many people in the industry, and everybody goes all these different places. And, but we have a great bond, the people I started out with, because we were all there together. And so I'm not making a lot of money, living off a small salary, but instead of going out to the bars on a Friday night, we were getting maybe a little real here, but we were all splitting a 30 rack and having a good time,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way it was. That's the way it was.
Exactly. That's the part of like, living out a dream. Like you get to do like the best job in the world, call sports and cover sports. And, for someone like me, I definitely want to get down that path. I definitely, just doing podcasts and everything I can get myself into, I've really been able to talk to a lot of cool people like yourself. And, over the past year, just doing this, it's like, it's really eye opening. And it shows me that, it takes a lot of hard work, but, my mindset hasn't changed since the start of me deciding that I wanted to do this. So, like I said, I appreciate you taking the time. It means a lot. And to hear more about like those experiences that you had, like WEI as well, like a show I grew up, listening to as well. Like, did you intern there before you started working there like full time?
I didn't. With EEI, it was I was filling in.
Okay.
And the connection there was, Scott Cordishi, who's my co-host now. Scott was doing the show Saturday mornings with John Rook, who is the play-by-play voice of the Providence Friars and PA announcer for the Patriots at Gillette Stadium. John does a ton of different things. But John was my professor of sports reporting at Emerson College my junior year. So that was the connection there. When I got to this market, John was thrilled because he's like, "Oh my gosh, one of my guys is coming to this market." And he got me involved, and he was like, "Look, there's going to be some shows where I need some fill-ins," and so he asked my friend Jeff Kolb and I to fill in with Scott, and we did that on a consistent basis. And then John decided he had some other things going on, and he said, "Why don't you take over the reins and step in as the co-host with Scott?" And it grew from there. We've been doing it over 5 years. I love it. It's such a great thing to look forward to at the end of the week. The early wake up call, I've gotten used to it. For a guy that works nightside with his day job, it can be tough on a Saturday morning, but I know that there's a lot of people that appreciate it and listen. And it's so fun for us. It's 2 hours a week where I can vent about sports and have an opinion, and it's great.
Yeah, exactly. And to do it on like a national, platform, I do this online for, a couple hundred people, but, to do it at that level, it's, pretty cool and eye opening too. For myself, seeing it in firsthand in person, it's like, wow, you could do this as a job. You know what I mean? It's really cool to see that. And, fast forwarding for yourself, I did want to ask you about Brown, because you do a lot of the commentating for Brown as well on ESPN Plus. So talk about how that initially came to you and how it's been. I believe you've been doing it since 2018, I think
2018-ish. Yeah. That was building the connection with Scott. And Saturday mornings, it all kind of bleeds out. It all connects, Cam.
Yeah.
It all connects. But yeah, Scott and I have been working well together, and he said, "Hey, we need some help. We're, Ivy League's making a deal with ESPN Plus. We want to beef up some of the broadcasts, whatever." And so, I started out doing play-by-play for men's basketball, and now I'm doing, some colors, some sidelines, I'm kind of floating around doing a bunch of different things. But it's fun. It's fun to be around an athletic program like that. You kind of get a peek behind the curtain. And these are teams that I cover for my day job too. So I'm going to be there a lot anyways. So, why not hop on? And doing live sports like that, a live sports broadcast it can be very different from doing, your sportscast, because your sportscast very, it's written out. It's here's the news of the day. Here's your, you can make your own opinions on it. I'm just presenting it to you. With live sports, you're reacting to what's going on. And, it makes for it's a different kind of rush. It's really fun. Mike Martin's had a great, basketball program there. There's been a lot of memorable nights, memorable games. The football program's been, building up here with James Perry, and so I've gotten to do a lot of great games, and it's fun. It's fun to be involved with live sports. It keeps you fresh, calling the action as it goes.
Yeah. And for you, if you were to pick, what's your favorite part of sports media and just working with sports? I know it's tough to pick from reporting and calling games and anchoring as well, but I mean, maybe not even from a physical aspect, just in your mind, what's your favorite part of your job?
I think my favorite part is meeting all the cool people that we get to meet, and building some of those relationships, because as much as it's a privilege to do this, and as much as I really enjoy going on the air every night and going on the air Saturday mornings and going on the air with Brown, whatever, you get to meet a lot of cool people, talk to a lot of cool people, build some great relationships. And that's really, you look forward to that. You look forward to going to, hey, Ed Cooley's got a press conference today. I'm interested to hear what he has to say. But, a couple minutes before, we're talking about what's going on, in our lives, or we're talking about what's going on with the program or whatever. Or I go up to Bryant, and I know the men's basketball team's practicing, but it's great to talk to, Coach Grasso about, what the program's looking like at the moment. How's the kids, how's the family, how's this, how's that, going to local high schools, seeing the coaches and the athletic directors. How's it going here? Like that, the people that you see and meet and work with and interact with, that's what makes it really, really fun. And I think that's a unique thing that Rhode Island presents, is that it's a lot of local connections, local sports that you get to cover. And I genuinely, look forward to that every day.
Right. And going back a little bit to the first time you were given the opportunity for ABC6, what was that? How did that come to you? What was the experience like the first few years doing it? And then working alongside someone like Ian Steele and being able to be promoted with him as a sports director?
Yeah, I was really lucky. I came in and so I got the job again because of a connection. I had a friend, my friend Nikki Gerber was one of the news reporters. She was the morning reporter, and she'd reached out to me because she knew I was looking around trying to, move up and get closer to home. And said, "He's still looking for, a job?" I said, "Well, yeah." And she said, "Well, the sports anchor, weekend sports anchor job's opening up at 6. You should apply." And this was like it was like a Monday night. She texted me. I had a reel put together. I had my resume ready to go. I sent it to the news director, and I kid you not, Cam, at 10 a.m. the next morning, I was at the station there for an interview. It happened that fast. And then, they went through the process of interviewing other candidates, whatnot. But I think I stood out because I jumped at it. And, eventually they got back to me and said, "We're going to hire you." And, I got to work with Ken Bell, legendary sports director at ABC6, 35 years. I got to work with him his last 4.5 years of his career. Just the nicest man you'll ever meet, but a guy that he knows television. He knows how it works. He knew the ins and outs and what makes good TV and whatnot. And I learned so much from him in that regard. And we had such a blast working together. And then, when I knew he was retiring, the station, I was lucky enough, the station approached me and said, "We'd like to make you the sports director." And I was flattered. I was honored. It was awesome. Because it's exactly what I wanted to do. And so I moved up, and we searched around for a weekend sports anchor. And, Ian stood out among the candidates as a guy who, I wanted to work with somebody that, and look, I don't make the hires, but they valued my input. And I basically said, Ian's the perfect candidate because he's very similar to me. He has a tremendous work ethic. He's passionate about it. And he's a social media wizard. And that had stood out to me in his small market job working out in Corpus Christi, Texas. I saw all the things he was doing, and that really stood out. And so, eventually went through a whole process and we got him here. And I say it all the time, but I mean it. He's the best partner in the business. He works his tail off. He's relentless. But he's also, a great, great person and a great friend. And so it's fun for us to work together. We have such a great chemistry. And he makes my life easier on different occasions too. And it's important to work with people that, you really enjoy working with. But also you understand, like, they have a life, you have a life, and that can be hard in this industry, because you commit yourself to it so much. But, we take the time to make sure that, life events and holidays and those sorts of things, we work together to make sure that we both get to enjoy those sorts of things. And so, that more than anything, I really value about working with Ian. So I've been lucky. It's been a heck of a ride, and I'm coming up on 9 years at Channel 6. And yeah, it's been great.
For sure. And, most recently being named Rhode Island Sports Caster of the Year for the 4th time. I mean, like, that must be an amazing feeling for you. Like, how does that feel to accomplish such an award for the 4th time? I mean, you've been there, you've done it, but how does that make you feel?
I'm honored, Cam. I was honored the first time it happened. I'm even more honored now. It's the best thing that you can earn from people in the industry is, their respect. And that's why I'm so flattered by it, because it's a sign of respect. And, I'm very appreciative of that. As I just mentioned, I'm very appreciative of the opportunity I get to do this every day. And I wouldn't be earning honors like that if I didn't have a great partner like Ian. If I didn't have people at the station that really support us, people like Hector Molina and Natalie Nuri who've stepped in and, come out of the bullpen and help us as well. And it's the most flattering thing has been, particularly this week after, learning of the news, being out, as I've just mentioned, it's great to see all the people that I see every day at the local high schools and colleges, people coming up to me and saying congratulations. That's been really, really cool. People you don't expect, people that you're like, wow, how did you hear about this? How did you talk? And that's really cool. The sign of respect. It's humbling to me. It really is. And I get to do a job I love every day, and that's the most important thing to me. But to earn a pat on the back like that it's really cool.
Of course. And, over the years, like, your entire career, maybe even like, what's been like your favorite thing to cover as an anchor, or maybe even like a play-by-play guy or color guy, like anything that you've done in your career, like if you can think of something very, very memorable for you, like that you've been able to cover over the years.
Yeah, I there's been a lot now. I'm lucky enough to say I've covered 4 Super Bowls. I've covered World Series. Watched my favorite team as a kid, the Red Sox, win the World Series in 2018. Covered an NBA Finals. Covered a Stanley Cup final. Could be doing that again this spring, both of them.
Hopefully.
If it keeps up the way it is. And I've done a lot of really cool. I did the U.S. Open last year. That was really cool. But one of the coolest things, and I talk about how great local sports is, I got to cover the NCAA tournaments that I have. Last year was really memorable with Providence getting to the Sweet 16. That was really, really fun. An awesome team, an awesome season. And that's up on the list too. I got to cover the PC Friars hockey team in 2015, winning the national championship. And I always point to that as such a really, really fun run, a really, really fun spring, really great season to cover because they were so talented. And who knew they were going to go on a run to get to win the national championship and beat Jack Eichel and BU. And, years later, you look at that team now, and there's so many pros on that team. It was so talented and stacked. Noel Achari was one of the names, obviously, that comes up because he played for the Bruins, and he's a Johnston guy, and there's so many guys that were on the team that were so talented, and it was so fun being on the ice and seeing that happen, seeing a local school win a national championship. That was a very, very memorable night and very, very memorable run. But I've gotten to cover a lot of great things, and you can't complain when the confetti's falling at the Super Bowl and the Patriots have just won another one and another one and another one. The Red Sox winning the World Series, and you're standing there in front of the MVP and you're interviewing him. And I've been really blessed.
Yeah, that kind of segues into like another question I had. Like, what's been like a really cool experience? Like you've been with like interacting with like a player or something like that, or like a coach, somebody like an historic coach like Bill Belichick. Maybe even being able to ask him a few questions, like something that sticks out to you again in that aspect of like, wow, I get to talk to this person. You know what I mean? Like something like that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of cool ones. When Brady was here, it's like you get to sit in a room with Tom Brady once a week at least. I mean, that's pretty darn cool. Bill is, greatest coach of all time. Sometimes he's going to answer your questions and you're going to be like, wow, that's a great answer. And sometimes he's not. And so you kind of deal with that. But covering some of the great athletes in this region has been awesome. Covering some of the local coaches that we get to cover. I mentioned Ed Cooley earlier. I mean, that's just, he could run for mayor of Providence and win tomorrow. The guy's just so charismatic. He's a soundbite machine, but he's also a great coach and great to talk to. So there's been a lot of cool people that you get to talk to and meet, and the list goes on and on. One story that sticks out to me as a guy that was a baseball guy growing up, during our COVID times and during the pandemic at the height of it, working from home a lot, and Ian and I actually put together a half-hour special on the Pawtucket Red Sox leaving. And it was sort of looking back at all of the 50 years of the Paw Sox, and I ended up doing a story on the longest game. And I got to sit on a Zoom, and it was on Zoom, but whatever, it was me one-on-one. I got on a Zoom and I got to talk about the longest game, and I got to talk a little baseball with Cal Ripken Jr. And that was really freaking cool. I was like, oh my God, I'm on a Zoom with Cal Ripken Jr., like a Hall of Famer, guy I grew up watching, the Iron Man, like all of that. And he was such a nice guy. It was a great conversation. When you get to do things like that, you're like, whew, pinch yourself. That's a really, really cool thing.
Right. And, it's kind of closing everything out, kind of put one big question into one, your message to the youth, somebody like me, and, like being able to teach at the University of Rhode Island. What do you teach to your students, and like maybe like a hardship that you've have to deal with in your life and your career that kind of meshes into one, like, not, backing down, always pushing through and working hard to, get to those goals. So like, again, like I said, somebody like me, what would your message be to the youth, and what do you teach to your students at URI?
Yeah, just try everything. Try everything, especially when you're at URI, when you're in school. See what sticks. You might find something that you thought you liked and you don't, and you might like some part of the industry that surprises you. You may find something that you didn't think you liked, and maybe you like. Maybe it's sports radio, maybe it's podcasting, maybe it's being on TV, maybe it's producing and being behind the scenes, being a photographer, all those sorts of things. Try it all. The resources are at your hands in school. And particularly a school like URI, I think the Harrington School is really on the rise. There's a lot of alumni that are coming out of there that are going right into the industry and having success. And so, yeah, try everything, be persistent, and don't get discouraged, because you're going to be told no at some points. You're going to apply for jobs when you're coming out of school and people won't respond. It only takes one. It takes one person to believe in you. It does. It takes one station, takes one entity, whatever it is, and then you get your foot in the door. So be persistent about it. Don't get discouraged, and go after it. If you have the passion for it, go after it, and build those relationships, because that can go a long way. So yeah, go after it, and yeah, that'd be my best advice. Try everything and see what sticks.
For sure, Nick. And again, I appreciate it a ton for you joining Cam's Corner. I did want to ask you again, like my last question is just like, what did you think of the podcast again, and who might you want to see as a future guest, coming down in the future?
Oh, it's great to talk with you, buddy. Yeah, future guests. I mean, hey, aim for the sky, man. Whatever you can get. But talking to people on the local level, I think you always find some really, really cool stories. So, keep talking to people on the local sports scene, because I think they all have great stories to tell. But then, aim high. You never know who you could get, Kim. You never know who could say yes to an interview that would come on and chat with you. So whether it's an athlete, whether it's somebody that you watch, love, grew up watching, whatever, aim high, because I'm sure you'll do great.
I appreciate it, Nick, and I'll be in touch when this is all out. And again, I'll be in touch with you as well as far as internships goes, for the summertime. I know it's a little bit whiles away, but again, it means a lot for you to join, and I'll definitely see you soon. Hopefully at another URI game coming down in the future. But again, it means a lot for you to take the time to talk to me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, pal. Yeah, happy to do it, man.